So good to see you all again, and we're grateful to be here and sharing another video with farm animals and homeopathy. Dr. Alex and I are here today to talk about homeopathy first aid for animals during the holidays, and we're hoping that some of you will join us. Hi, Dr. Alex.
Hello. Are
Nice.
we on? Yes, we're on.
We are on, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
let me share some slides with everybody, and you can see what we've been working on today.
Yeah.
There. All right, excellent. So today we have a slew of remedies to talk about. We know that animals get into all kinds of fun things during the holidays because we have more things out and about. We have candy on the the end tables, and we have things hanging on the trees, and we have candles out, and things get broken and they step on things, and they have more opportunities to tear into presents that somebody thought it was a good idea to wrap a box of chocolates and stick it under the tree when you have 6 dogs. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah. And not only that, but also, when it's the time of holidays, we are much more occupied. We are not with our mind as in the right frame as usually we have. So we
a lot
are
more
occupied with many
for
things,
sure.
a lot of
Lots
distractions. So it's very easy to leave a tray full of cookies and suddenly thinking about something else and just leaving it there and move on. And by the time we come back, the cookies are
gone. So plants, certain foods like cookies, sweets, definitely chocolates, overeating, cooked bones, and water hazards, and cuts and wounds is kind of what we're going to touch on today. So Dr. Alex, these plants that you chose, they're gorgeous. Talk a little bit about what we're seeing here.
Well, the lilies are actually my favorite. I love the smell and I love the looks. Mistletoe, it's used almost by everyone during Christmas. Amaryllis is actually also used for Christmas, especially the red ones. And the first one, we call it. That's it.
Yeah, that's the one. And a lot of people worry about the poinsettias, and I've heard people, especially talk about the lilies around Easter time because those are so popular, but people have them around for Christmas a lot too. And like you said, the amaryllis are very popular this time of year, and mistletoe and the berries. If you have real mistletoe, a lot of people like to hang them up in a doorway, and they might get knocked down. The berries might get knocked down. So these are 4 things that can be toxic to animals. The other one, I thought this was a great selection. Onions. Some animals can tolerate them, but most of them can't. And I never knew about raisins. Somebody said one time, I was going to their house and I said I was going to bring myself some breakfast. And they said, whatever you do, don't bring anything with raisins. And I said, why? And she said, because my cats will eat them and they're toxic. Okay, news to me. I've seen dogs eat grapes. Are grapes an issue for dogs?
Look, any of these things, no, not any. Taking out xylitol, because xylitol, oh my God, that's pure poison. That is like ingesting arsenic on a dog. It will kill in no time. And many people use xylitol, especially during the holidays, as a sugar replacement. So this is like aspartame or like saccharin, but xylitol will kill a dog, and there will be no dog or cat that will be immune to it. Now, onions, raisins, grapes. Raisins are not good because they have a high sugar content, and we know that sugar is toxic, when we shouldn't be really feeding sugar to animals. Onions and grapes my dogs ate onions and grapes and never had a problem. But having said that, there are a lot of dogs with a high sensitivity to onions, and a lot of dogs as well with a high sensitivity to grapes. Mine loved grapes. They would eat them occasionally. They would even play with them and then eventually eat them after a while.
I find with grapes, we actually had grapevines. You didn't get to see any of that this fall when you came, but we used to have grapevines all over the back field. And my husband would pick them and feed them to the chickens. But what I convinced him to do was to put them in their enclosure and step on them so that you crush them, because animals can get grapes, just like little kids, they can get grapes stuck in their windpipe. So that's one of the hazards. And the grapes that come from the grocery store, they're sprayed with a lot of chemicals. So that's another reason, like if you're going to have anything out, any kind of fresh food that you're feeding your dogs, especially if you feed them raw, you decide that grapes are a good idea, crush them, make sure you rinse them first.
But if you go on the internet and if you go on any animal site, they will say that grapes are toxic. Mine would eat them, they wouldn't have a problem. But that, again,
it's best to
every
err on the side of
animal
caution.
is individual. So it's an individual. You know, some people are allergic to strawberries, and we all love strawberries, and we all know that strawberries are good for you.
You don't know you're allergic to something until you turn into the Stay Puft Man.
Exactly. So these are just some examples.
So the first remedy that we're going to talk about is Arsenicum, which is such an amazing remedy. There's just no end to what you can use Arsenicum for. This is definitely the first remedy to go to when you're looking at toxicity. If you see vomiting and diarrhea, or one or the other or them together, if things are really smelly and the animal is very restless, like they can't settle down, or they're just emotionally very restless, drinking a lot, but only like they're constantly going back to the bowl. They're not drinking the whole bowl. They just drink a little bit each time, but they're constantly going back. We had an animal, forget which dog it was, that would stay at the bowl and like not leave the bowl, but would only drink every so often, but wouldn't leave the bowl. And they're better for warm drinks and warm environments. So you might find them by the fire, or
next to the radiator.
Yeah, next to the radiator, exactly, or sleeping under your feet or what have you. But again, such a fantastic remedy. And then China, our very first remedy ever proven. Talk a little bit about this. Diarrhea predominates.
So this is the case where you have a party, or you had a dinner and the dog looks great and everybody's great, and suddenly, you wake up in the middle of the night and the dog had the watery diarrhea everywhere in the house. But you look at the animal and it seems fine. It's not like, and it's usually not vomiting. It's just painless and a lot of watery diarrhea. Their belly can be also, distended, and it can feel almost like a tight drum, but not always necessarily. But if you see that the animal is okay or looks okay, and general levels of energy, with Arsenicum, they will be very restless, pacing up and down, or they will be totally collapsed and prostrated. But you look at the animal and you can see that there is anxiety in their demeanor, and they will tend to be all the time next to you. With China, the dog is perfectly okay, but, it just had watery diarrhea, which is the last thing you want under these circumstances, especially not in the holidays inside of the house.
True statement. And China is great for replenishing, helping them replenish and get rehydrated and that sort of thing. So you may see that after they've had the diarrhea, they look really kind of emaciated too, even though their belly is distended. And this is a good remedy to replenish their system. So Ipecac I think anybody who's over 50 knows about Ipecac, as when we were kids, if your parents wanted you to throw up, this was a medicine that they would give you. And interestingly enough, as a homeopathic remedy, vomiting predominates with this, and the nausea and excessive vomiting. This animal will be thirstless, but has profuse salivation. So they're, drooling up a storm, usually with a clean tongue. And not that a lot of times you can get near their tongue if they're feeling lousy. They're not necessarily going to show you. And when they do vomit, it doesn't make them feel any better. So there's no relief with that. They often will feel worse, and they do prefer to be in cool environments. So you may see them wanting to go outside in the winter, or in some place where they're not next to the heater. They're far away. They go lay down in the garage, or they go lay down outside on the deck, or what have you, because it really makes a shift for their nausea and excessive vomiting.
It makes them feel slightly better. Yeah. But the main thing to have in your minds is if it is xylitol, don't even think. You start with arsenicum, and very frequently, the highest potency you have, and very, very often. And, if you can take the dog immediately to the vet, if you catch it on time, if it is 2 hours later, it is in their system. Still, you should take it to the vet because it's lethal. But arsenicum is the first remedy you go to. Now, how to distinguish between arsenicum and ipecac? It's quite easy. This one will not be thirsty. It will be drooling much more than arsenicum. Arsenicum will be near the radiators, or lying in the sun, or in front of the fireplace, while Ipecac will lie on the cool tiles, lay on the shade, and will, look for cool environments. Or he will not tell you that it has extreme nausea because it cannot talk, but what you will see is vomiting, and after a while vomiting again, and after a while vomiting again, and drooling, keep on vomiting.
Yeah.
So that's important. With China is more, the dog looks fine, or the cat, but they will have profuse, painless, watery diarrhea, which can be because of the amount of the stool, and the frequency of the diarrhea can very easily dehydrate them. But, apart from that, they look cool. So these are mainly the 3 key notes that you go to. And of course, Ipecac, as you said very correctly, in the old times when somebody, my brother, for instance, he will kill me, but anyway, my mom used to have for herself glycerin suppositories. I don't know how they are nowadays, but in the old times, they were coming in aluminum kind of wrapping. So my brother thought that they were kind of caramellos, and had a full box of glycerin.
Oh no.
Yeah, suppositories as candies.
Oh my goodness.
Ipecac was what he was given.
Yeah.
In order to throw up immediately before he would have an overdose of glycerin suppositories in his system. Although, thinking about it.
Talk about painless diarrhea.
Exactly. Then he probably would need quite a lot of China, poor guy.
They used to make a medicine over here that was to help move your bowels. And they look like chocolate, and they tasted like chocolate, and a lot of kids would eat them. I don't remember what the name was, but they would come in the aluminum packets, and they kind of looked like little candies. And I thought, whose idea was this? So this is speaking of chocolate, sweets, chocolate is something that we have a lot of it around Christmas, when you are around the holidays, Hanukkah, Christmas, solstice, for the Yule celebrations, etc. You find chocolate everywhere this time of year. I went into Trader Joe's 2 days ago, and there's an entire aisle committed to chocolate and treats right now. And you know, it's so tempting. They sell these giant bars. They're like 2 pounds of chocolate. And I remember buying those years ago and bringing them to work and, like, you know, crushing them up and sticking them out on the counter or whatever. But we had a cat who licked right through wrapping of a chocolate bar one time that was left out. So never underestimate the desire and the ability of your animals to get into something. And if they do, here are some remedies to talk about. So Alex, we talk a little bit about Argentum nitricum. Actually, we've got a slide on that one. Talk a little bit about Lycopodium. That's one that we didn't do a slide on.
So these are the main remedies for, you know, overeat. First of all these remedies will have an extreme craving for sweets, being chocolate or not. Chocolate as a remedy, it would be sometimes it's useful if the symptoms match, and if it is chocolate that they eat, you know, this is the remedy you could try. But the number one remedy is Argentum nitricum. Now, Lycopodium will have a very big belly distension, like China. They love sweets anyway. And again, you know your animals. I had dogs that you could put them anything sweet in front of them, they couldn't care less. And I had others that they would jump on the table to get to the chocolate. So again, it's very individual. Lycopodium will be any kind of sweet, though. Phosphorus also has a sweet tooth, but the number one remedy to go to, and that's the one I chose to,
is Argentum nitricum.
Is Argentum nitricum.
Okay.
With phosphorus, you know, the animal will want a lot of, it will crave cold water, and then will vomit the moment the
It's
water.
the stomach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we will go into that afterwards. So
when you say they're not usually well tolerated, if they eat sugar and sweets, then this is where we're going to see the nausea, the retching, the vomiting. I thought I had said,
and the glary mucus.
Glary mucus. So glary is like shiny. Okay.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they ate a ball of tinsel from the tree.
No.
Because we all know that they do that too. But we're going to talk a little bit about that next week. But the diarrhea is watery, noisy. There's a lot of flatulence. What's coming out of them is green, like chopped spinach, and shredded mucus. And I think, you know, anybody that's paid attention, you'll see stool change color when you change something in your diet drastically. And it doesn't have to be that you're eating green food in order to have green stool.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But you're saying Argentum nitricum is the remedy to reach for when they overdo it with sweets.
And sweets, yeah. Okay. Chocolate or not.
Okay. All right. And then we'll jump to phos. So
with phosphorus, they usually will vomit. And what you will see is the food that they ingested before.
So that's ingesta, is partially digested food.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can see the pieces of food. So it's partially digested or actually not digested at all. You know, what went in comes out. And you usually like 2 hours after, you know, it doesn't stay long in the stomach. The water, they are thirsty, they will drink water, but the moment that the water gets warmed up in the stomach, so again, within 20 minutes, half an hour, comes out again.
And is it just water that we're likely to see, like they're drinking and it hits their stomach, warms up, and it comes out? Are they likely to bring all the food with it? Is it going to be easy enough to tell?
No, because they will bring out all the food first, and the food, is not digested, but they will bring it out in one go, and then they're thirsty and they drink water, and then the water gets warmed up in the stomach and comes out, and then they drink again. And again, within 20 minutes, they vomit the water. So that's what you see with phosphorus.
That's great.
And
that's a great
if you put some ice cubes on the floor, they will go for it. They are craving really icy cold water. If you're not sure if phosphorus is your remedy, or you are indecisive between phosphorus and Argentum nitricum, pick up a bowl, put water from the fridge, really cold water, and put it next to them. If they go for the water, definitely it's phosphorus that they will be needing.
Okay, fantastic. That's a great distinction. Thank you. And then anybody that has a motivated dog knows how much some of them really like to counter surf. It kind of amazes me. The things that dogs will go after, and they really, my sister's dog was really pretty good about that, but my nephew's dog would clean the entire counter off. Like, you'd leave things on the counter, without thinking about it or whatever. And they even started putting things like in the sink if they had to thaw something or what have you. And this dog was going into the sink and getting things. So it was really tricky to have her in the house when somebody wasn't watching her all the time. So if you come home and you drop the groceries and then you have to go back out to the car because there's 15 other things that you've got to grab out of the trunk, and the dog's loose in the house, and you come back and one of your grocery bags is missing, you might want to give the dog Nux Vomica. It's kind of amazing how they will tear into stuff. And they're opportunists for sure.
Yeah. So when there is excess eating, and another time as well, I had gone and visit some friends that had dogs, and obviously I took mine. And one of the dogs was not very happy with my dog. And so I decided to put it in the garden. And little did I know that they had two huge German shepherds where they used to feed dry food. And not only that, but they had like huge bowls full of dry food continuously throughout the day. Because the dogs would go and eat when they were hungry. And my dog, which was half of their size, ate the two bowls before I knew it. I mean, I did not know. So he was really, really sick. And he could have died because he had so much that it was not just vomiting and diarrhea and Nux Vomica. It was what brought him around.
Yeah, very important remedy to have on hand for people and
overeating.
Animals. Yeah.
Overeating of anything.
If you have, I always think about, my cousin had a dog that would drink beer. And, when you're at a party or a gathering or whatever, people will put their cans down, their bottles down, their glasses down, whatever. And this dog would go and drink all the beer. And boy, Nux Vomica would have been a really good thing to have on hand for this dog, because holy cow, it was really something. So cooked bones was another thing that you and I talked about, and the importance of stressing to people that you really want to avoid this. And I'm sure that, anybody that has an animal knows that you don't give them cooked bones because they splinter, they shatter, and they become weapons inside the animals. They get stuck and they can perforate things, they can cut things, they can make it impossible for them to breathe. They'll choke, they'll be vomiting, you might see diarrhea. What's that?
At the best,
at the best, yeah, if you're lucky.
Yeah,
if you're lucky. And some dogs and cats are aggressive eaters, so they'll find something and they'll just swallow it. They barely chew it and they swallow it. So talk a little bit about this when you said, not every dog will experience issues.
Yeah. I mean, there are many dogs that eat cooked bones, to be honest with you. I mean, think
It
about
happens.
this.
I know. The stray
No,
dogs.
but think about Greece, with all the stray dogs. What do they feed? They feed out of the garbage. What do they find in the garbage? It's not the raw bones. They are all cooked bones. And people in the restaurants and in tavernas, they keep throwing, the leftovers of their bones, which are all cooked, to the animals, being cats or being dogs. And these dogs, I don't know, it's in their genes, they're fine. They eat, that's what they feed on, and they're fine. And I had a few times as well where, again, my dogs attacked the rubbish bin and they went through some cooked bones. Not the best. The most dangerous are actually chicken and turkey, because they shatter and splinter more easily. Bones are fantastic if they're not cooked. If they're not cooked, they can eat. But if they are cooked, there is always a danger. Now, because this danger is real and if it happens, it can kill the animal, and only surgery, and it needs to be immediate surgery, can save the animal, because if he had a perforated intestine, he will bleed internally and he will die. And he will get into septicemia in no time as well, because even a tiny hole in the intestine, because the intestine is full of bacteria, which inside of the intestine is wonderful, outside will kill, and it spreads very quickly. So if it happens, first of all, the best thing is prevention. Make sure that after the turkey, after you eat the cooked meat, you put it in a place where the dog or the cat or whatever animal cannot get to it. Point number one. If it happens, because sometimes we take all the precautions and it happens, then watch closely the animal, at least for 2-3 hours minimum. If nothing happens after 3 hours, you can relax and everything will be okay, because the animals have a much shorter intestinal tract, so things move on much faster. And if any of these signs, like it looks like choking, or you can see that suddenly starts breathing or panting, that means he's in pain. Or it has difficulty breathing because he has something lodged in the windpipes, or he starts vomiting, or he starts having diarrhea and is in pain, or you see blood in the stool, or suddenly they go very lethargic and just totally prostrated, don't hesitate. You contact.
Don't wait. Go right to the vet. Yeah, go right to the vet.
Actually, I would say once you know that it had bones, observe for 2-3 hours, but have the number ready. Don't wait for something to happen and then look for the vet and then try to see if they are open and then try to find
and on the holidays it's a bit more of a challenge, so make sure you have the information for your emergency vet, because not everybody's vet is open. Even if the holiday falls on a weekday, obviously they're going to be closed. So you need to know where your emergency vet is as well, so that they can assist. So the next thing we wanted to talk about was water hazards. And, there are a lot of people that have pools and
lakes.
And lakes and and things that animals can fall into or what have you. And in the winter, an animal might not think twice about running out on the ice that's too thin. Or you might have, like for this instance here, where the cat has fallen into the pool, and maybe it got knocked in, maybe something knocked the wind out of it, or, something might have pushed it in or pulled it in or what have you. Things to think about. But as far as water hazards go, one of the remedies that is amazing for anybody that has come close to or actually drown is antimonium tart.
And antimonium tart usually works being water or being fluid mucus in the lungs. So the lungs, there will be a lot of rattling because either from bronchitis, pneumonia, extreme flus, or actually drowning, falling and swallowing or breathing in a lot of water. It's an amazing remedy. So the lungs are threatening paralysis because they are full of fluid. And if the animal is still breathing, it will be, drowsy, very, very weak. There might be contracture of the muscles, and there might be retching and vomiting as well.
Right, they're trying to get the fluid out of their body.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And antimonium tart is an important thing to have around if you live around water and you have small children, because kids fall into the pool or, fall through the ice or what have you. And obviously you want to call 911 straight away. But again, this is a first aid kind of situation where you can get a remedy into them while you're waiting for MedQ to come, or even if you're driving them to the hospital. So definitely a remedy to have.
And it acts so well that usually by the time the doctor
you get there, they're like, what do you mean you
they are
drowned?
perfectly okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes it happens very often. It's not so much that they are pushed or people travel with their animals. I usually take wherever I go, my animals come with me. And if you live in a house without a pool or without a lake, and you go to visit someone with pools and lakes, and the animal is not used to it, it's very easy for them. Now, if they grow in a place with pools and lakes, most probably it won't happen.
Not so much of an issue.
If they are visiting, it's, they're like children. They like to investigate, and before they know, they are in.
So Carbo Veg was the next remedy that we've talked about this remedy so many different times, and I know everybody has heard us say repeatedly that it's called the Corpse Reviver. It is the first remedy to try when there's no other remedy that seems indicated with something of this nature. The victim seems almost lifeless. They can be blue. Their pulse is almost, imperceptible. You can't feel it at all. Their breath is cold. And there is great air hunger, which means they're trying to take big, deep breaths. And that makes the animal want to be fanned as soon as they regain consciousness. Or you may find that they are looking for, a windy place or some place where the air is moving, where it's not stagnant.
Drafts. Yes.
Right. Or drafts. Exactly. And everybody heard us talk about a calf. We had shared a case of a calf down in Australia a few weeks back. And it was really amazing because the calf had been really close to death when we started to work on her. And the next thing she knew, after a couple of doses of Carbo Veg, she found the calf up on the hill in the middle of the field, even though she had been, cold, under temperature where she should have been. She had a blanket on her, but she went and laid in the middle of this field up on a hill because the wind was blowing. And so it was just another confirmatory of Carbo Veg. So the next thing we wanted to talk about was cuts and wounds. And a lot of people don't necessarily think about this during the holidays. They don't worry about their animals getting cut or what have you. But I think we've all had something break, whether it's, you drop a plate or you have a glass break and you can never find all the pieces of the glass. It's like they vaporize. I don't care what color they are, they just disappear. And you think, oh, that's way up under the stove, or, you know, it's gone down into a crack or what have you. And the next thing you know, your animal is walking around and you'll see spots of blood on the floor because they have stepped on it. We also have things like ornaments, things that are more breakable around the holidays that we set up. And the animal may, you know, clearly by accident, end up with some type of injury. So Alex, will you talk a little bit about Staphysagria and its role?
So this is the remedy you go to if there is a clean cut. It doesn't matter if it is from a knife, it's a stab wound, or a metal plate, or a glass, but it's the cut cannot be rugged. It has to be a clean cut. It's amazing for deep pain and infection after surgery, because of course, you know, surgeries are clean cuts. So just make sure that when you give the remedy, you clean the cut. Usually, I like to let it run, put it under running water for quite a long period of time. And usually that does the trick. Do not put calendula on top, because calendula tends to close the wound so quickly. So either for deep cuts or for deep puncture wounds, like from a nail, never put calendula, a tincture on top, or even internally, because the granulation, which is the ability to knit it
stitches the tissue back together.
Exactly. And underneath it stitches from up down. So on the surface, it might look healed and okay,
but there's something inside.
Underneath, it's with bacteria and will create the deep infection. So for deep wounds and clean cuts, Staphysagria is what you go to. Give Staphysagria internally and wash well the wound, and then just cover it in order not to get infected, but don't put calendula.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Especially if
Staphysagria will do the trick.
Will do a great job. Yes.
Yeah. We'll take away the pain as well. Unbelievably amazing. Even better than Ipecac in these cases.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. So next week, we're going to talk a little bit about how animals get into things and where they get the zoomies and they tear down the trees, or they act really a little crazy around this stuff, and maybe how to protect some of these things and how to protect your animal. Last week, we talked a little bit about their behaviors. So if you didn't watch that video, we recommend that you do. There were some wonderful remedies in there about what they struggle with emotionally through the holidays, so how you can support them. And this is next week, we'll talk a little bit about what rascals they can be. We really want to thank everybody, and we wish you all a wonderful season as we're rolling into December tomorrow, which is crazy. I can't believe tomorrow's December.
I know.
It's been a phenomenal year, and it's been wonderful sharing with everybody. And we really want to thank you for watching, and thanks for your questions. And if you need to reach us, if you need some support, if you need some help with some homeopathy, we also work with herbs and flower essences and cell salts. And we have hours Monday through Friday, and we also work on urgent or acute situations. So this is the best way to reach us. Thank you, Alex, for all of your wisdom, sharing all of that great information.
Thank you, my dear. Not only.
And we look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Or evening.
Or evening.